Hello dear friends, and today we carry on talking about socionics, and our topic is Model A. The question 8, what does Model A describe? How was Model A originally formulated, and how is it described in associative theory? What do the positions of the functions in the model mean? And the ninth question, I think I will not manage to highlight in this video, but still, what did Aushra Augustinavichute write about energy and information metabolism? So today we talk about Model A, and my videos is just the meaning of it to prepare you to digest information from the book, because in the book you will find much more information, more detail. But it might be difficult just to get and to read information if you are not prepared, if you don't know socionics. So what is Model A? Model A is a model of psyche, of human psyche, in relation to information metabolism, how we perceive information, how we understand it, and how we how we express information. That is why it is called information metabolism, model of information metabolism. What's very important, I always say that for Aushra, although she says it is information metabolism, she did not really separated information from energy. Why? She says because one without the other does not exist. Without feedback, until information on the favorable external and internal conditions for the continuation of energy metabolism is not received, there is a danger that the process of adaptation becomes a process of alienation from reality. Organism observes all energy information signals of other organism and nature. So, but she still call it information metabolism. No, why? Because for people, yeah, for us, information is very important. We exchange information. We've got symbols like words, letters, and so on. That's why. But it wouldn't be right to create the model which would be called just energy model or any other model, because what people believe, they believe because Model A is just information model, there should be any some other energy model, but that is not the case. That is not the case. In associative socionics, we have got energy and information, energy and information together, yeah, but focus is on the energy. Why? Because what relates to energy is like music, which doesn't have words, not necessarily, yeah, like art, dance. This is where more energy flows to us. We understand it without wording. That's why it is more or less a symbolic name, energy model. But it doesn't mean that it is separate from Model A. It is together. It is not a replacement. It's more general model, associative model. We talk about different types of energy and how they work together, the dynamics. Yeah, and this is more general level. We associate energy with groups of types. So associative model does not replace Model A. Why I'm saying so much in detail? Because you know there is a model of Gulenko, energy model, which looks very similar to model A. There are differences, of course, as well. But there was lots of issues about these energy models, because originally when it's appeared in socionics, yeah. So Gulenko said information model A, it's already old, we shouldn't use it. You should all now start using energy model, model G. So, and after a while, he tried a different way. He said, oh, you can use them both. And that's what we hear sometimes. Some people suggest to use them both, which is absolutely absurd thing to say, because when we start to actually type or we try, we see it is similar to say use both models, model A and MBTI model, because they have got also their model, yeah, but we don't do it. So that's why in associative socionics we use model A for the level of 16 types when we describe types in more detail. And we have got associative model. It's about dynamics of 4 psychic energy. So and both models complement each other. Yeah, associative model is just an addition to model A. If you have got any questions, you're welcome to ask, because just to mention that there is very similar concept from Gulenko about subtypes, which also using the same 4 groups, but it's conceptualized differently. Like a model of subtype system. And associative model, it's model energy model, and also a subtype system as well. Okay, how was model A originally formulated? Originally, long time ago, model A was looking a bit similar in the way now it looks model A, associative model, because the socionics functions were like connected into channels. For example, intuition, like first channel intuition, then sensorics. So not the way the modern model A looks like. But this information was long time ago, and I cannot find at the moment the link. If I will find it, it was a link about registration of Aushra Augustinavichute and some other person, some other scientists. They registered the discovery of Aushra socionics, and that was a document, but I cannot find it right now. So the difference between how model A looks now and how it looks in associative socionics, the difference is that in associative socionics we have got macro aspects, functions. They are like in a line, in a channel. For example, intuition is divided in extroverted or introverted. Then, for example, the channel of logic, both either introverted or extroverted, and so on. So I think this way it's easier to understand, and it emphasizes that socionics functions, they actually work together. They are not absolutely separate, because some socionists, they just see it's absolutely different. Like, for example, vulnerable function, intuition of possibilities. Extroverted intuition. It is weak. It's considered to be weak. But introverted intuition is activation function, for example, in a different position in model A. Already is not considered as weak, not weak, not as vulnerable. So, and we say that if the macro aspect is strong, then both functions are strong, but they qualitatively different, that they expressed different. So there will be different characteristics a little bit, but they are strong and they work together. Some people may say it's not exactly like this if we consider, for example, in model A, program function and restrictive function. Because, you know, they're really different. So one prefers one and not another, and sometimes restrictive function is considered as weak. But it's not exactly the case. We might not want to express and use much of restrictive function, but we still have got very good understanding of it. And this is the difference. Yes, so as I said, associative socionics, we use model A for description of every 16 types. And the functions just slightly differently positioned, but the meaning, all the meaning is the same. And the details you can read in the book about it. Okay. Next question is, what do the positions of the functions in the model mean? We have got, in the model A, we have got 4 blocks like of the psyche, and it is mental block, which considered to be more conscious and better used, more often used, better understanding. And we have got vital part of the model, which is more or less subconscious. And of course, something which is subconscious, we use less. And in each part, we have got strong and weak functions. So we have got 4 blocks. They have got the same names like you already heard before, which Aushra Augustinavichute took from the theory of Sigmund Freud. Block ego is the strongest one. The person is more confident using these functions, pair of functions. And the positions called program functions and creative functions. These are 2 strongest functions. You already know that we have got 8 functions, socionics functions, and 8 aspects of information. But now we talk in model, and in model we have got positions which give more specific characteristic on how this function is used by the person, what ability the person has got in usage of this function. Program function is the strongest. It is a program. That means the person easily gets information. He understands this information. It doesn't mean that the person absolutely doesn't need to learn anything about this, but most of the time, yes, the person thinks that I don't really need to learn this because I know it that well. And the person can do a lot of self-learning by using the functions. Creative function, it is how we apply information received by the program function. Next strong block, we call it, of functions is located in it, in subconscious. These are the functions of the different version. Yeah, for example, if you have got a program function extroverted, then it will be the same function but introverted in a vital part. Using these functions means we are strong but not really interested to use them much. They are more or less automatic. There are two functions. The restrictive, it is opposite the program function. Restrictive function is also one of the strongest functions. But why is it restrictive? Because the program function restricts usage of that function. And then we have got also background function in the id block. Background function means that the person does the minimum of necessary, what needs to be done. And both functions are not really considered as valuable or important, really. Then we have got weaker functions. And of course, the weak functions, which are in a mental part, it is superego block, we call it, are still stronger than the weak functions in superid block. Superid block in a model is the weakest one. Superego block considered to be social block, a block of the of our role function, of how we would like to appear in public, in society. It is where we conform to the rules of living in the society. And of these functions, we have got vulnerable and role functions in superego block. Vulnerable functions has got our fears, our worries, and we often act, maybe not often, but sometimes we act inadequate by using this function. And role function, it is where we try to appear maybe better than we are, or just try to appear very good at it. Conscious function, we understand, we kind of feel that we have got not enough information, and we collect information to make ourselves more acceptable in living within this community, trying to improve our weak functions, which are in superego block. As I said, vulnerable function is our fears, and usually people either do not want to do anything with the information on this function, or they work very hard. No, for example, the person who has got applied logic, extroverted logic, tries to wash and thinks very thoroughly by the instruction, putting too much time for it. And other people who hasn't got vulnerable function of logic, extroverted logic, they might look and think, you're using too much time, why do you do it? Or this function also is when you try to wrap up the presents for Christmas, for example, yeah, and then you try too hard, too long, you know. If the person is too much concentrated on something like that, which in your views is not really worth to do it that much, it can be done quicker and easier, then it is possibly vulnerable function. Yes. And role function I call also ambition function. As you know, in associative socionics, program and role function, these are values of types of psychic energy, and they're extremely important because role function supports program function. And the person feels the need to improve. This is a difference because usually in socionics, especially people who use quadras and quadra values, they consider functions of superego block as absolutely not valuable and so on. And I totally disagree with it. Of course, there is a difference from person to person, but on the whole, because it is a conscious block, it is stronger and than superego block. And it really pushes the person to do more, to be accepted in the society. And the last block in the model A, it is block Superid. As I said, it is really difficult to understand information and to use information. The person always forget how to use functions or information on the functions in that block. We have got the suggestive function. Suggestive function is the weakest, we can say, in the whole structure of the psyche. And suggestive because it is, we think that the person believes easily information. It can be vulnerable to suggestion, and it's very easy to sort of betray maybe the person on this function because the person doesn't differentiate really information much. And then we have got activation function in the superego block, which is also related to vulnerable function, of course. And that means the person has got fears and can only be happy about something positive. If you say something positive about the person's worries and so on, then the person will be thankful and it gives him motivation and energy to do things. Yeah, if the person gets bad information, it can be depressive, the person can lose motivation, and so that's why we call it activation function. But just at the end of this question, I would like to mention that why there is a difference. For example, as I said, vulnerable function. Sometimes we use too much time and effort. Sometimes we don't want to use. And the same with weak functions in superego block. People say that actually people can learn. Yes, they are the weakest, but people can learn. Yeah, of course, people can learn a lot. But the differences here is how these functions are used. If they are used with other strong functions from your model, yeah, so that is a big difference. For example, my suggestive function from superego block, the weakest function, is a function of applied logic, business logic, and I can do really a lot of mistakes on this function, and then I think, oh God, why didn't I think about it? But how could I think about it if I really didn't know much information about it? I just went into the unknown field of minds, but I wanted to go and I went, and I thought I understand, but then it turned out I don't. So it does happen to me as well, but that depends. If, for example, now I love to do decoration or projects, DIY projects, I use it together with my creative function, with my sensory function, and that is a different matter. Of course, I can do things, I can learn things, and it gives me pleasure to do this. But if somebody would suggest something like to read about just the business, how to run the business, how to make something effective, that's no. That's definitely no. So That's how we use the function depends on, and that's why the person has got all these functions. We all have got all these 8 functions, just because we need it sometimes, and it can be very good if we use it with other strong functions. That's where we can learn. I will stop now and we'll carry on later.